When people aren't meeting expectations or delivering results, it's often due to ineffective delegation. Today, we're diving into a way to set clear expectations and create mutual understanding, and most importantly, agreement from the start. Have you found yourself repeating the same instructions or expectations over and over again and nothing changing? So you just end up frustrated, disappointed, sad, angry. It's time to get different results. So if you're tired of this frustration in your work or your personal relationships, then you are in the right place. By the end of this video, you'll have the tools to create more effective collaboration and experience less frustration. If you're ready to take action, hit that like button. Let's dive in. So there are two types of delegation. Gopher, that's when you're telling somebody everything to do. Hey, go over there, pick that piece up, bring it back over here. This is how to do it. This is exactly what, right? That's gopher leadership. And that sucks for pretty much everybody, right? You have all the responsibility, all the emotional weight, the thinking, the ownership, all of it. It's on you. And it leads the other person to feel like we're just being a nag because we're checking up and we're hovering. Now, today we're going to be talking about stewardship delegation. This is not just assigning tasks. Stewardship delegation is about creating mutual understanding. What is the result that we're going for? Okay, what is it going to take to get there? And who's all in, right? That way you have an agreement from the start. This clarifies and fosters trust and accountability. Now, when you practice stewardship delegation, everyone knows what to expect, by who, by when, and what success actually looks like, leading to a much more effective collaboration and less frustration. Isn't that what we're going for? It's no longer telling someone, do this, do that. You'll never have to hear again, well, just tell me what you want to do and I'll do it, which leaves all the mental and emotional load on you. Stewardship delegation focuses on results instead of methods. We give people a choice in how they achieve the results, making them responsible for the outcome. It may take more time up front. It's time well invested because it ultimately gives you back your time, your peace of mind, and your energy. So when your intent is to get everybody on the same page, this is what I'm referencing as stewardship delegation. This is why we call it tangents, tails, because they insist. Those with the tails insist on being in the video as well. The 5 elements of stewardship delegation. What is the desired result? What is it that we want out of this? Then we're going to look at the guidelines. What are the shoulds and should not? And the resources. What is it going to take? What are the human resources? Financial resources? Organizational resources? What are the tools? Accountability. Who will do what by when? What is my place in this? What is your place? And then consequences. What happens when this is complete? So you want to ask these questions. So now let's put this all together. So in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey shares desired results. So he takes the son to the neighbor's yard and said, hey, see, it's green and clean. Now look at our yard. And of course it had trash and it wasn't green and clean. It had a very specific, this is the end result that we're looking for. Then he tells his son, now how you get it green, that's up to you. You can do it any way except painting it. I'd be happy to tell you how I would do it, and yet it's up to you. And his son says, well, how would you do it, Dad? Well, I'd turn on the sprinklers, but you might decide to use buckets or a hose. All we care about is that it's green, okay? And the son says, yeah, absolutely. Now let's talk about clean. Clean means no messes around, no paper, no strings. He says, I tell you what I'll do. Let's together clean the yard. We'll clean half of the yard together so that we can look at that and go, okay, what's clean and what's not. And that we, again, the training process of this. So we have a desired result, clean and green. So he started to set some guidelines, right? Desired result, clean and green anyway, except for painting it, and clean, this is what clean is. Then he goes on and tells us, now before you decide to officially accept this job, let's talk about what you're accepting. Because when you take the job anymore, I don't do it any longer. It's your job. It's called stewardship. Stewardship means a job with a trust. I trust you to get the job done. So then Covey asked his son, so who's going to be your boss? And the son said, well, you, Dad. Dad says, no, you're your own boss. He asked his son, how do you enjoy Mom and Dad nagging you all the time? And of course his son says, not at all. No thanks. So obviously, and we don't like nagging you. So you are your own boss. And then they talk about who judges you. Covey goes on to tell his son, you judge you. It's your stewardship. And then he's setting up. Remember, we talked about accountability. So he's setting up accountability. And he actually says twice a week, the two of us will walk around the yard and you can show me how it's coming. And how are you going to... Here's how he set this up with his family. Of course, it works the same whether you're doing it with your family or you're doing it at work, interesting enough. So it is definitely a skill that you could use throughout your entire world. As I read through this, I'd like you to think about where are those 5 elements? And I'll point those out as well. So in his family meeting, they put their mission statement up. So then he goes through and he asks for volunteers. So who wants to pay the mortgage? Well, uniquely became clear there's only certain names that could go up there for paying the mortgage, right? Now, who feeds the baby? Well, and then who wants to pay for insurance? And, you know, who had the means to do that? So that name went on the board. Who wants to pay for the food, the cars, right? You get it, right? You go through, what are all those things? So as a parent, you're probably noticing you have a huge monopoly on some of these roles, right? Again, in your business, it works the same. Who's doing sales? Who's doing marketing? Who's bringing in the money? How do you lay those out? As he goes down the list, right? Everybody, it becomes clear who has the means and the ability to do those roles. Starting at the beginning, what's available, who has to do what, it kind of puts some things into perspective. A kid, well, I don't have these jobs. You have those jobs. Or an employee, hey, why can't I do this? Well, hey, there's certain things that different people have to do. So his son volunteered to take care of the yard. That's one of the things that he would be able to do. So before Covey gave him that job, he said, okay, let's go through a training process. Let's make sure that you understand everything about this job before you take it on. So he demonstrated. We started with desired results. He demonstrates that we're going to judge it. And the son says green and clean. Absolutely. So now everybody knows they're on the same page and they have the accountability of 2 times a week set up. Consequences. The consequences, if he does these pieces, green and clean. Depending on the job, you could go into further consequences of, you attach money to the job, maybe things that they can do, and how they feel after, all of these types of things. This correlates whether your personal life or in your work life, even in everyday conversations. When hey, you're volunteering, hey, this is what we're gonna do. Okay, let me get the desire. Let me get the okay, am I willing to take that on? Now everybody is in agreement. Trust is the highest form of human motivation. It brings out the very best in people. It takes time and patience. It doesn't preclude the necessity to train and develop your people so their abilities can rise to the level of trust. Now, next week we're going to share what do we do when we've done all of those steps and they're not taking ownership. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification button so you're notified so that you can hear that video as well. Thanks for joining us on these Talks and Tangents. Stay classy and remember, normal is just a setting on a washing machine. You're doing great.